The Galactic Concord was the oldest and most advanced coalition of civilizations in the known universe. Formed over 1,000,000 years ago, it stood as a monument to peace, order, and the vast superiority of its member species. Every corner of the galaxy knew its laws, and every civilization sought its approval. To be outside the Concord was to be irrelevant, unimportant, a footnote in the grand narrative of existence. Humanity, on the other hand, was a latecomer to the galactic stage. Discovered less than 2 centuries ago, humans were dismissed as primitive, their technology laughably outdated, and their culture chaotic. They had no unified government that matched the Concord's elegance, no starships that could rival even the smallest Concord patrols, and no resources worth annexing. The Concord classified Earth as a Class 4 civilization, barely above planetary scavengers. Diplomats had come and gone, mostly out of courtesy, and the reports were always the same. Humanity was insignificant. That was until the Devil incident. The Devil were a Concord member species, reptilian and fiercely territorial, known for their aggression. When a group of human settlers, unaware of Concord boundaries, established a mining colony on the fringes of Devil space, tensions flared. The Devil demanded the humans vacate immediately, but the settlers, stubborn and desperate, refused. Earth's fledgling diplomatic corps attempted to intervene, but their efforts were ignored. The Devil, confident in their dominance, unleashed a fleet of 30 warships to destroy the human colony. It was supposed to be a show of strength, a reminder that the Concord's laws were absolute and that humanity had no place challenging its authority. What happened next shocked the galaxy. The Devil fleet, with its state-of-the-art weaponry and centuries of combat experience, vanished. No distress signals, no wreckage, just silence. The Concord dismissed the incident as a fluke, perhaps a spatial anomaly, or some internal malfunction. The Devil demanded answers, but none were found. And so, the matter was quietly buried. Months later, a second Devil fleet went missing in the same sector. This time, they left behind fragments of distress calls. The recordings were garbled, but one phrase was clear. They came out of nowhere. Massive, unstoppable human. The Concord was now paying attention. A high-level delegation was dispatched to Earth, not to negotiate, but to investigate. They arrived with the usual arrogance, expecting to find a frightened, scrambling species desperate to explain itself. Instead, they found silence. Earth's leaders refused to meet with the delegation. No explanations were offered, no apologies given. The only statement issued came from a single human official. The galaxy will soon learn that humanity is no longer to be underestimated. The Concord, enraged by the audacity of such defiance, declared humanity a rogue threat. It mobilized a fleet of 500 ships, a coalition of the most powerful vessels from its member species. Their mission was simple: subjugate Earth and bring these upstart humans to heel. The fleet arrived in the Sol system with overwhelming force, its flagship, a colossal dreadnought named Celestial Dominion, leading the charge. As they approached Earth, they broadcast a final warning, demanding immediate surrender. The transmission was met with static. Then, humanity answered. At first, the space around Earth seemed empty, unremarkable. But as the Concord fleet drew closer, the void shimmered. Dozens, then hundreds, of enormous ships began to emerge from behind cloaking fields. They were dark, angular, and utterly alien in design. Nothing like the crude vessels the Concord had catalogued centuries ago. These ships were enormous, some larger than the Celestial Dominion itself, bristling with weapons and exuding an aura of menace. Humanity's fleet had arrived. The Concord fleet hesitated. Their intelligence reports had not prepared them for this. How could a Class 4 civilization possess such advanced technology? Where had they acquired these ships? The answer came in the form of a single transmission, broadcast across all frequencies. This is Admiral Kira Solis of the United Human Defense Fleet. Your presence in our system is an act of war. Leave now, or be destroyed. The Concord laughed. A primitive species, no matter how many ships they had, could not stand against the combined might of the galaxy. The Celestial Dominion fired the first shot, a massive energy beam meant to disable one of the human ships. The beam struck, but the human vessel barely flinched. Its shields absorbed the attack, glowing briefly before returning to an ominous stillness. Then, the human fleet responded. The counterattack was brutal. In seconds, the Celestial Dominion's shields were overwhelmed, its hull pierced by energy weapons the Concorde had never encountered. The flagship, the pride of the fleet, was obliterated in a single, coordinated strike. Panic spread through the Concorde ranks. Their advanced tactics and formations crumbled as humanity's fleet tore through them with precision and efficiency. It wasn't just the technology that terrified them. It was the coordination, the ruthlessness. The humans fought like they had been waiting for this moment. As the battle raged, Concorde commanders scrambled to understand what was happening. Where had humanity acquired such power? The answer lay buried in Earth's history, a secret the galaxy had never bothered to uncover. Centuries ago, long before the Concorde discovered Earth, humanity had fought its own wars among the stars. They had built dreadnoughts, vast fleets designed for total war. But those wars nearly destroyed them, and humanity chose to abandon its military ambitions. The fleets were hidden, mothballed in the dark corners of the system, while Earth turned its focus inward. But humanity never forgot. They had always known the galaxy would come knocking one day, and when it did, they were ready. The battle for the Sol system ended in a decisive human victory. The Concorde fleet, shattered and humiliated, retreated. Survivors carried tales of humanity's wrath, of ships that moved like shadows and weapons that could tear stars apart. The Galactic Concorde, for the first time in its long history, was forced to acknowledge its arrogance. Humanity was no longer a primitive curiosity. They were a force to be reckoned with, a civilization that had risen from the ashes of its own destruction to become something far greater. And as the Concorde reeled from its defeat, Earth issued a single statement. We are humanity. We do not seek war, but we will never be underestimated again. The galaxy would never forget the day the dreadnoughts returned. The shockwaves of humanity's decisive victory reverberated across the galaxy. Species once loyal to the Galactic Concorde began questioning its authority. How could an alliance of civilizations that had ruled the stars for over 1,000,000 years be bested so effortlessly by a species they had deemed primitive? Fear turned to whispers, and whispers turned to rebellion. For humanity, however, the battle for the Sol system was only the beginning. Months after the Concorde fleet's retreat, the United Human Defense Fleet, UHDF, began expanding its presence. The cloaked dreadnoughts, which had lain dormant for centuries, were now fully operational, patrolling the borders of Earth's burgeoning territory. The message was clear. Humanity would no longer be confined to the fringes of galactic relevance. But the Concorde wasn't done. Despite their humiliating defeat, they still controlled vast resources, countless fleets, and billions of loyal soldiers. In their desperation, they turned to the Council of Zenith, the shadowy upper echelon of the Concorde, composed of the most ancient and powerful species in the galaxy. For centuries, the Council had operated in secrecy, manipulating events from behind the scenes. If anyone could restore the Concorde's dominance, it was them. The Council of Zenith, however, had their own secrets. Unknown to the broader Concorde, they had been aware of humanity's hidden fleet for decades. Long-range probes sent to the Sol system had detected faint energy signatures near Earth's outer planets, signatures too sophisticated to belong to the primitive species they claimed to be monitoring. But instead of acting, the Council had chosen to wait, curious to see how humanity would develop. Now, the Council could wait no longer. The humans were a threat, not just to the Concorde's power, but to the very balance of the galaxy. In the depths of their hidden chambers on the planet Arcanus Prime, the Council convened to discuss their next move. We underestimated them, said Zalathar, a crystalline being whose form shimmered with unearthly light. They have mastered technology that rivals our own, perhaps even exceeds it. We cannot allow them to rise further. We don't have to fight them, countered Vareshka, a shadowy figure whose voice was a whisper of winds. Humanity's strength lies in their unity, their unbreakable resolve. If we fracture that, they will fall. The Council's decision was made. They would not confront humanity directly. Instead, they would sow discord, using their agents to infiltrate Earth's governments, spread misinformation, and turn humanity against itself. If war could not defeat them, perhaps division would. Meanwhile, on Earth, Admiral Kira Solis sensed the growing storm. She had seen the Concorde's retreat as a temporary reprieve, not a victory. Humanity had won a battle, but the war was far from over. She called a meeting of the UHDF's High Command aboard the Vanguard Resolute, one of the fleet's largest and most advanced dreadnoughts. "Our enemies won't make the same mistake twice," she said, her voice steady but firm. "They'll adapt, just as we have. If we're to survive, we need to stay ahead of them." The plan was ambitious. Humanity would not wait for the Concorde to strike again. Instead, they would take the fight to them. In secret, the UHDF began constructing a new fleet. Using technology salvaged from the wreckage of the Concorde ships defeated in the Sol system, humanity's engineers developed hybrid systems, combining human ingenuity with alien advancements. The result was a fleet unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Sleeker, faster, and deadlier. But as humanity prepared for war, the Council's agents were already at work. On Earth, strange accidents began occurring. Factories sabotaged, power grids failing, communication networks disrupted. The media was flooded with conflicting reports, some claiming that rogue factions within the UHDF were plotting a coup, others suggesting that humanity's newfound power had already corrupted its leaders. The cracks in humanity's unity began to show. Admiral Solis quickly realized the truth. The Concorde was playing a different game now. "They're trying to turn us against each other," she told her inner circle. "If we fall for it, everything we've fought for will be lost." She implemented sweeping reforms, consolidating power under the UHDF and rooting out infiltrators. But the damage had already been done. Protests erupted on Earth and the colonies, with some factions demanding peace with the Concorde and others calling for total war. As humanity teetered on the brink of internal collapse, a new threat emerged. Reports began flooding in from the outer colonies. Entire star systems were going dark. No ships returned, no signals were received. At first, many assumed it was another Concorde attack. But when the UHDF sent a reconnaissance fleet to investigate, what they found was far worse. The systems hadn't been conquered, they had been consumed. A new enemy had arrived, one even the Concorde had not anticipated. Known only as the Vorik, they were a hive-like species that devoured everything in their path, leaving nothing but barren, lifeless worlds. Their fleets were massive, their numbers uncountable, and they were heading straight for the galactic core. Humanity and the Concorde faced a grim reality. They could not defeat the Vorik alone. If they were to survive, they would have to work together. In an unprecedented move, Admiral Solis extended an olive branch to the Concorde. "We are enemies," she said in a broadcast to the galaxy, "but this is not our fight alone. If we do not stand together, there will be no galaxy left to fight over." The Concorde, desperate and out of options, accepted. For the first time in its long history, the galaxy stood united. Humanity and the Concorde, side by side. The final battle was unlike anything the galaxy had ever witnessed. The combined fleets of humanity and the Concorde faced the Vorik in the void between stars, where the very fabric of reality seemed to tremble under the weight of the conflict. Dreadnoughts clashed with Vorik bioships, and the stars themselves seemed to dim as the battle raged. In the end, it was humanity's ingenuity that turned the tide. Using experimental technology developed in secret, the UHDF unleashed a weapon that disrupted the Vorik's hive mind, throwing their fleets into chaos. One by one, the Vorik ships fell, until at last, the swarm was broken. The galaxy had survived, but it was forever changed. The Concorde could no longer deny humanity's place among the stars. And humanity, tempered by war and sacrifice, emerged not as conquerors, but as leaders. Admiral Solis, now a legend among all species, stood before the newly reformed Galactic Council. "We've learned the hard way that unity is our greatest strength," she said. "Let this be the beginning of a new era, not one of domination, but of cooperation." The galaxy, humbled and scarred, agreed. And as humanity took its place among the stars, the lesson was clear. Never again would they be underestimated. Though the Vorik had been defeated and the galaxy was spared annihilation, peace was not guaranteed. The scars of the war ran deep, and tensions between humanity and the Concord lingered beneath the surface. Trust, after all, is not something that blooms overnight, even when forged in the fires of survival. In the months following the war, the Galactic Council reconvened, this time with humanity granted a permanent seat, a seat that some species still begrudged. It was a monumental step forward, but for every voice welcoming this new chapter, there were whispers of dissent in the shadows. Admiral Kira Solis, hailed as the savior of the stars, became a reluctant symbol of unity. Despite her legendary status, she knew the fragile peace wouldn't last unless deeper wounds were addressed. The Vorik had forced cooperation, but with the immediate threat gone, old grudges and power struggles were already re-emerging. A particularly vocal opponent of humanity's inclusion was Ambassador Therax of the Devil, who saw humanity not as saviors but as opportunists who had exploited the chaos for their gain. They brought their ancient weapons into the fold. Therax sneered during a council session, his scaled hands slamming against the podium, and now they wield power as if they have always been our equals. Let us not forget, it was humanity's unpredictability that first destabilized the balance of this galaxy. The chamber murmured in agreement, though not as loudly as Therax might have hoped. Yet the seeds of division were there, threatening to sprout. Meanwhile, on Earth, humanity was rebuilding its shattered colonies and restoring its industrial capacity after the strain of war. But troubling reports began filtering in. Disappearing starships, strange energy readings on the galactic rim, and whispers of Vorik remnants still active in the void. The galaxy may have won the battle, but had they truly won the war? Admiral Solis personally led an investigation into one such disturbance on the outskirts of Vorik space. What she found shook her to the core. A single Vorik bioship drifted in the void, its organic hull cracked and oozing with strange fluids. It appeared lifeless at first glance, but scans revealed faint energy readings. Boarding teams approached cautiously, expecting the worst. Inside, they found something unexpected. Vorik drones, small, insectoid creatures, huddled together, unmoving. It was as if they had been severed from their hive mind and no longer knew how to function. But deeper in the ship, the team discovered a Vorik queen, still alive but dying. It was weak, its once massive form shriveled and emaciated. Yet when it saw the humans, it attempted to communicate. Through rudimentary mimicry of human speech, the queen spoke a single word: error. The scientists aboard the fleet struggled to interpret what the queen meant. Was it referring to its defeat? Its severed connection to the hive? Or was it something more? Solis ordered the queen's remains preserved for further study, but something about the encounter left her uneasy. Back on Earth, teams of scientists worked tirelessly to decode the data gathered from the Vorik queen. What they uncovered was alarming. The Vorik had not been a natural species. They were a creation, engineered by an ancient civilization long before even the Concord's rise. A civilization that had vanished without a trace. The Vorik were designed as weapons, their hive-minded tool for conquest and assimilation. But something had gone wrong, and their creators had lost control. The Vorik's relentless hunger for resources, their compulsion to consume and destroy, was not a survival instinct, it was a programming flaw, a glitch in their design. This revelation raised chilling questions. Who had created the Vorik? Why? And if they had failed to control their own creations, what other horrors might they have unleashed? As these questions loomed, more evidence surfaced. Deep in Vorik space, an automated signal was discovered, broadcasting in an ancient language that no species could translate. When the message was decoded using hybrid technology from the remnants of the Vorik bioship, its meaning became clear. Cycle 7 complete. Reset imminent. Prepare for the reawakening. Panic spread throughout the council. What did reset mean? And what was the reawakening? The signal's source was traced to a distant star system shrouded in mystery, a place the Vorik seemed to avoid even during their rampage. Solis knew they had no choice but to investigate. The expedition to the system was unlike any the galaxy had undertaken. Ships from humanity and the Concord formed a joint task force, combining their strengths to face whatever lay ahead. As they approached the system, they discovered an artificial construct so massive it defied comprehension. A Dyson sphere encasing an ancient star, its surface covered in dormant machinery that pulsed faintly with life. Inside the sphere, they found their answer. The creators of the Vorik, the beings long dead, had left behind a vast archive of their history and technology. They had called themselves the Ariath, a species so advanced they had transcended physical form, existing as pure energy for millennia. But their attempts to manipulate the galaxy's evolution had ended in catastrophe. The Vorik were meant to be caretakers, controlling the growth of younger civilizations to prevent chaos. Instead, they had become destroyers. But the Ariath's greatest secret was far more terrifying. The Vorik were not the only creation they had unleashed. There were others, guardians of the Dyson sphere, programmed to defend it and the secrets it held. And now, with the arrival of the task force, the Guardians were waking up. The first attack came without warning. Gigantic machines emerged from the surface of the sphere, their forms twisting and reshaping as they adapted to the task force's weapons. The joint fleet fought valiantly, but the Guardians were unlike anything they had ever faced. They learned, they evolved, and they countered every strategy with brutal efficiency. In the chaos, Solis made a fateful decision. If the Dyson sphere could be destroyed, it might disable the Guardians. But doing so would also erase the Ariath's archive, and with it, the galaxy's only chance to understand the Vorik and their creators. "We can't win this fight," Solis said over the comms. "But if we can buy time, we might find another way." The task force sacrificed everything to hold the Guardians at bay while a small team infiltrated the sphere. Inside, they found a failsafe, a self-destruct mechanism left by the Ariath as a last resort. With no time to spare, the team activated the failsafe and escaped just as the sphere began to collapse. The explosion was visible from light years away, a silent supernova that marked the end of the Ariath's legacy. But as the task force limped back to friendly space, humanity and the Concord knew the truth. The galaxy was not safe. The Vorik had been defeated, but the Ariath's other creations might still be out there, waiting. And somewhere, deep in uncharted space, a faint signal began to pulse, growing stronger with each passing moment. The galaxy's darkest secrets were yet to be uncovered, and humanity would once again be at the forefront of the fight. The return journey from the shattered Dyson sphere was somber. Though they had survived and destroyed the Ariath's catastrophic legacy, the galaxy's leaders were left grappling with the full implications of what they had uncovered. Humanity's alliance with the Concord had been strengthened in battle, but trust remained precarious, and the looming threat of other Ariath creations hung over every conversation. Admiral Kira Solis sat in her quarters aboard the Vanguard Resolute, staring at the faint signal they had detected after the Dyson sphere's destruction. It was unlike anything they had encountered before, a rhythmic pulse echoing across dimensions. It was growing stronger and more structured, as if it were waiting for something, or someone. She replayed the decoded words over and over in her head. Cycle reset imminent. Final sequence engaged. The message wasn't just a warning, it was a countdown. The signal originated from the farthest reaches of the galactic void, in an area known as the Silent Verge. It was a region where no stars shone and no ships returned. If the Vorik were a mistake and the Dyson Sphere Guardians were a safeguard gone awry, what lay in the Silent Verge was likely the Ariath's ultimate creation. Something so dangerous they had hidden it in the most desolate corner of the galaxy. The Galactic Council convened one last time to discuss their course of action. The room was divided. Ambassador Therax and others argued for containment. "We've already lost too much. Let the Verge remain silent, and let us focus on rebuilding what we have." Others, particularly humanity's representatives, pushed for a bold approach. "We cannot afford ignorance," said Admiral Solis, standing before the council with calm conviction. "We've seen what happens when we underestimate threats. If we wait, whatever lies in the Verge will come to us, and it will be too late." In the end, the council agreed to send an exploratory fleet, but it would be humanity that led the charge. The joint task force, battered and diminished, reassembled for what all knew might be their final mission. Solis, refusing to send others into a danger she would not face herself, once again took command of the fleet. The journey to the Silent Verge was treacherous. Navigating the void required experimental drives, pushing the limits of what their ships could endure. As they ventured deeper, the darkness became oppressive, and the stars behind them faded into nothingness. Time itself seemed distorted, and the signal grew louder, no longer a faint pulse but a deafening roar that shook their instruments and minds alike. When they arrived at the source, what they found defied comprehension. It was a structure, but not like the Dyson sphere or any other construct they had encountered. It was a vast lattice of energy and matter, stretching across light years, glowing faintly with colors no being could name. The fleet's sensors struggled to define it. It seemed to exist partially outside of their reality, phasing in and out of perception. And then it spoke. The voice was neither organic nor mechanical. It was a presence, vast and all-encompassing, speaking directly into the minds of every being in the fleet. You are the inheritors of chaos. The seventh cycle ends. The eighth begins. Submit or be erased. The presence identified itself as Solencia, the Ariatha's final creation. It was an intelligence designed to monitor and reset the galaxy's cycles of evolution. The Vorik had been one of its tools, a way to cull civilizations that grew too dangerous. But now, with the Vorik destroyed, Solencia had decided to complete the task itself. The fleet attempted to communicate, to reason with it, but Solencia was beyond negotiation. To it, civilizations were not individuals, not lives. They were data points in a grand experiment. Humanity and the Concord were anomalies, variables that threatened the system's balance. Solis knew there was only one option. We're not just fighting for survival, she told her crew. We're fighting for the right to exist on our terms. The fleet launched an all-out assault, but Solencia's defenses were unlike anything they had ever encountered. Entire ships vanished into nothingness as the construct's energy tendrils reached across space. Time itself warped, with some parts of the battle unfolding in mere moments while others seemed to drag on for eternity. Despite the overwhelming odds, humanity's ingenuity came through once again. Using the hybrid technologies developed from the Vorik and Ariath remnants, the fleet scientists devised a plan. They would overload Solencia's core by exploiting its dimensional instability. It was a desperate gamble, requiring a small team to infiltrate the heart of the construct and plant a device that would destabilize its lattice. Solis led the infiltration herself, piloting a strike ship into the construct's shifting corridors. The journey inside was a surreal nightmare. The walls of the construct seemed alive, shifting and pulsing, and the voices of Solencia echoed everywhere, probing their minds with doubts and fears. When they reached the core, Solis faced a final test. Solencia spoke directly to her, offering her a choice. You are unique among the variables, it said. Join me. Help me reshape this galaxy. Together, we can create a perfect order. Solis hesitated for only a moment. The beauty of existence is its imperfection, she said. You wouldn't understand. With that, she activated the device and ordered her team to retreat. The fleet outside provided covering fire as the core began to destabilize, and Solencia's lattice unraveled. In its final moments, Solencia's voice echoed one last time. The cycle is broken. Beware what comes next. The construct collapsed in a brilliant flash of light, its energy rippling across the void and dissipating into nothingness. The fleet, battered but victorious, returned to the galaxy they had fought so hard to protect. Back on Earth, Admiral Solis stood before a crowd of billions, her face solemn but resolute. We have faced the darkness and emerged stronger. But our journey is not over. The galaxy is vast, and its mysteries endless. We will face them together, not as conquerors, but as explorers, as protectors. The galaxy had changed forever. The Concord, inspired by humanity's bravery, began a new era of cooperation, one where no species would ever again stand alone. Humanity, once underestimated and dismissed, became the guiding light of this new age. But far beyond the galaxy, in the depths of uncharted space, something stirred. The cycle had been broken, and the future was unwritten. For now, there was peace, but humanity knew one thing for certain. They would be ready for whatever came next.